Numbers still remain quite high with the Delta variant. It feels like we're hitting some sort of peak or plateau. There's no way to know quite yet, but one can only hope. Because especially now that the FDA has decided to give the Pfizer vaccine full authorization, I was told that that's all these anti-vaxxers needed. And then they're going to be ready to just get the jab in line the next day. I don't know, forgive my skepticism in that area. Because let's turn to Alabama. Former President Donald Trump held a maskless rally in Alabama on Saturday. And Alabama has been in the news a lot recently for running out of ICU beds as Delta runs rampant, tragically, over the state, one of the least vaccinated states in the country. However, in a twist, the man Donald Trump decided to urge his audience to get vaccinated, and it didn't go that well for him, especially because he could breathe or fart and the whole crowd would cheer normally. But it seems like he's created a monster and he can't control it anymore.
3 days, less than 9 months, and it's great. And you know what? I believe totally in your freedoms. I do. You got to do what you have to do. But I recommend take the vaccines. I did it. It's good. Take the vaccines. But you got, no, that's okay. That's all right. You got your freedoms. But I happen to take the vaccine. If it doesn't work, you'll be the first to know, okay? I'll call up Alabama and say, hey, you know what? But it is working. But you do have your freedoms. You have to maintain that. You have to maintain that. And you got to get your kids back to school.
Right. So he walked it back a bit there, right? You hear those boos.
He walked it back like 4 times. He did. If you just count the buts in that sentence, like you got to get your freedoms, but I took it. But
right.
got to get your freedoms. That is, I think
but you got to get the kids back to school.
The dictionary definition of mixed messaging.
Well, yeah, certainly. He is a crowd surfer. He tries to walk back and make the crowd laugh, but there was some tepid kind of frustration or unsuredness that you could feel in the crowd. But as I say, when you create a monster, don't be surprised when you can't control the monster. And even Trump, who tried to pocket COVID denial as a part of a political strategy when he was leaving office, not telling anybody that he'd been vaccinated, and it came out a few months later, not revealing his vaccination status, even he can't control it. Because I think it's an indication of a few things, but one of the main takeaways for me is the man is not in control of the narrative anymore. He's not visible in the way that he once was, and part of that has to do with the fact that he is no longer on social media sites, major ones, and he's having difficulty communicating publicly, and news organizations have made decisions about not just airing every word that he says, which was a huge part of his victory in 2016, just not showing Bernie Sanders rallies at all and waiting with bated breath at Trump's empty podium, for example. But these diehards, yeah, they'll cling to everything he says, 100%, the MAGA crowd.
Well, you can finish your point there.
But many of them are right now just moving on to news sources, or new politicians or Marjorie Taylor Greene or whoever to satiate their impulses in this area.
Yeah, I mean, this is the difference between the GOP and the Democrats. The Democrats like to control and sort of finely guide the enthusiasms of their base, whereas the GOP will take whatever enthusiasms they can get where they can get them, because their main project is pretty unappealing, like basically just lower tax cuts for the wealthy. And the thing is, like, Trump could tell them, look, just get the vaccine, you idiots, right? And like, people would boo, but eventually that would have a big effect. But they don't want to do that because ultimately this is too valuable for them electorally.
Exactly. And a good reminder to everybody that in the fall, Trump was getting his base all riled up about the vaccine not being approved fast enough. And this is very much in keeping, Matt and I were talking about this before the show, with a long conservative undercurrent about approval of, say, experimental drugs. They're saying, you need to let the free market decide, and you need to open these up to capitalism so that these treatments can't be behind some government wall of approval.
Yeah, this is a common moral blackmail take you'll hear from the right when particularly the Democrats are in power, that your red tape is stopping X cure from getting to patients. You're basically killing those people.
Right. And now, full FDA approval coming down the pike from the FDA. And so there should be no excuses anymore. But as we'll get to later in the program, that's not the case. This is just the latest iteration of shifting of the goalpost. But I would imagine Trump going forward, if he still wants to run, who knows if that's the case anymore. I would imagine he steers away from some of this vaccine denial, but how can you?
Again, like they need to like try to harvest as many of those people they can while still, getting people vaccinated at the rate where they can open up businesses and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's pretty gross. I mean, I know COVID's rising in North Dakota. North Dakota is one of the worst as far as getting vaccinated. And, I know weddings happening in a few weeks, and it's, ugly to see. But ultimately, I think you just need to mandate this stuff. And that's ultimately the good news about the CDC thing, is it will allow mandates to be a lot easier. And they just need to be done. And if there's protests and stuff, people can protest. And if they choose to get onto the streets to protest against the vaccine, that can stop them from being a disease vector, as opposed to, like, say, police brutality and violence. That's on them. They can get out and protest.
Folks, there's more of what you've just saw where that came from. That's if you hit the subscribe and like button. Thank you. Really, thank you.